the creation of Saint Dominique. So we know where Haiti and Dominican Republic are today is one island, and one half of that was the French colony, Saint Dominique, and then the other one is Santo Domingo, which is the present-day Dominican Republic. So I'm going to start reading right here. To help you understand the revolution that began in 1791, the revolution is how they changed it from a colony to a free country. The first part of your reading will trace the history of the island. You will read about the Tainos, the original inhabitants of Hispaniola, and how their society was devastated by European colonizers. Those are the people from Spain that came, and then from France eventually. You will read about how the colonization of Hispaniola was related to the European competition for colonies in the Americas. So the competition was between like France and Spain and Britain, and they were all fighting because they saw all this land, and they were like, we want all the stuff on that land. We're going to have colonies. So they were just trying to compete to see who could get the most, not thinking about the people that live there. You will also explore the contours of life in 18th century Saint Dominique and consider how different groups had very different experiences in the colony. The reading will help you consider how conditions on and off the island gave rise to the only successful slave revolt in history. The Tainos of Hispaniola. Okay, so this is the group that came from the mainland and said, wow, this is this beautiful island, let's go, nobody's there, and let's go start a community over there. The island of Hispaniola was colonized first by the Spanish and then by the French. So these are the people that came in after the Tainos. By the end of the 17th century, there were two colonies on the island: Spanish, Santo Domingo, which is now DR, in the east, and French, Saint Dominique, in the west. But long before the arrival of the Europeans, a group of people called the Tainos they lived on this island, Hispaniola. And this is what I really want you to focus on, like, who were they and what was their community like? The Tainos were the original inhabitants of Hispaniola. They migrated, which means they moved from South America to populate much of the Caribbean, many generations before the arrival of the Spanish. Taino groups lived on present-day Cuba, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands, as well as on Hispaniola. The groups on these islands shared a common language and culture, and there was some travel amongst them, particularly between Hispaniola and Puerto Rico. The Tainos in Hispaniola lived in large villages governed by caciques, or chiefs, who could be male or female. So no gender, saying only men could rule. Females could also rule. They were experienced woodworkers, potters, so they could do all sorts of pottery, dishes, all of that, and weavers for like baskets and building their houses, and carvers, so they would carve wood and made beautiful wood too. And they used sophisticated agriculture and fishing techniques. Historians estimate that before the arrival of the Europeans, the indigenous population on Hispaniola numbered anywhere from 500,000 to 1 million people. This is going to be really important, all these facts about them, like that they had a community, they had a hierarchy, they had a leader, they had sophisticated agriculture and fishing. They knew what they were doing. They were a successful community of people. But that is not how the Europeans saw them. And then let's just take a look at this picture, and I'll read the caption below. This engraving from 1620 shows Spaniards, so this is when the Columbus group came in, hanging Anacana, a Taino cacique or chief, and also burning members of her entourage. This image was in a book by Bartolomé de las Casas, a Spanish priest who championed the rights of the indigenous populations in the Americas. So when he says he championed, he's a priest that was watching this violence, and he was like, no, somebody needs to speak up for these people. This has to stop. This is cruel. So the way they mean championing was he was advocating, or he was saying, trying to help them by stopping the Spaniards from doing this. He was an early supporter of bringing Africans to labor in the colonies rather than enslaving the indigenous population. And it says below this, but it got cut off, that he eventually regretted saying, bring Africans over for the labor, leave these indigenous people alone. Because when the Africans came over, he witnessed the same things happening to them. So he regretted even saying that.